Hi, my name is Albert Bandura, and I was born on December 4th of 1925 in the province of Alberta, Canada. I received my bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of British Columbia, then later went on to receive my doctorate degree in clinical psychology from the University of Iowa. After this, I started an internship at the Wichita Guiding Center before gaining a teaching position at Stanford University in the year of 1953. In 1986, I wrote a book called Social Foundations of Thought and Action, which provides sort of like a framework or structure of my theory, which is the social learning theory, which also is known as the social cognitive theory. And this theory is the belief that people can be persuaded to pick up behaviors through observation of others and then sort of mimic or imitate that behavior based on what they've seen. And this is where the Bobo doll experiment came into play. In 1961, I showed a film to some students where a woman was beating and yelling at a doll. After watching the video, the students were released to a room where a Bobo doll was present, and when they recognized the doll, the students started beating and yelling at it, mimicking the woman from the video they had just watched. So this is where I developed the observation theory. Along with the observation theory, I believe in the modeling process that makes the observation theory true. And it's a four-step process, and the first one is attention. So the attention is when the behavior is noticed. So when they're watching the video, they noticed that the behavior was hitting and yelling at this doll. The second one is retention, which is how well that behavior is remembered. So when they go into the classroom, do they remember what happened to the doll in the movie? Do they remember how the behavior was played out? The third step is reproduction, and that's the ability to imitate the behavior that was modeled for them. Well, when they saw it, they realized that, hey, this is the doll that the woman was beating and yelling at. Maybe I should do the same. Which leads me to the fourth one, which is motivation, which is the will to do the behavior on your own. So they had the will and the motivation to imitate the behavior of beating and yelling at the doll from the behavior that they noticed watching the film. I believe that my theory is being used in the classroom every day, even without us realizing it. There is a negative way and a positive way to use my theory, and so when I believe that substitutes use this theory in more of a negative way and they don't even realize it, most of the time when a substitute is there, students act out to see how much they can get away with before they're disciplined. So when a substitute is there and a student is being disruptive and the substitute doesn't acknowledge it, then the other students can see that a punishment is not given for being disruptive, so they start acting out as well, and then you have chaos in the classroom. A good example is maybe you have an activity up on the board or projector, whichever you use, and at the end of the day or the week or whatever the teacher decides, he or she can pick out the students who worked the quietest, who worked the hardest, who did their best, and they can get a piece of candy or an incentive as a reward. Ultimately, this should help those students continue to work hard so they can receive rewards other times, but it also should encourage the other students to imitate those students who receive the candy by working hard and doing their best so that next time they can receive the reward. There are pros and cons to most everything in life. So some of the pros to my theory are that it paints an accurate picture of how behavior is learned. So you can physically see, oh, they're observing this, they're retaining this, and they're going to mimic it. So that is how that behavior is learned within the classroom. It explains a large number of behaviors that occurs, and it's easy to understand. There are some cons as well, and they are some to think about. So the first one is it does not explain all behavior that happens. So just because one kid observes one and is acting out doesn't mean that this kid is acting out because he observed something as well. It's not the only kind of behavior within the classroom. It does not all explain all the behavioral differences, and it does not take into consideration what one person might view as a punishment, one might view as a reward. So this person might act out and get to talk with you one-on-one because he's in trouble, and that's a punishment. But this person may observe that he's acted out and got to talk to you, so he'll act out and get to talk to you because he wants attention, and he might view that as a reward. So even though there are some cons, I believe the pros outweigh the cons, and my theory is commonly used within the classroom and even at home as well, and should be continued to use within the classroom.